So, back in other news.
News! The world is ending!
Whoa. The world is going through so much right now. But let's go through what's happening in detail so the audience can understand what's going on.
Okay. According to the United Nations, by the year 2030, an estimated 60% of the human population will reside in urban centers. With the concentration of people into small areas comes serious risks as well as significant issues that challenge infrastructure. Our cities are already under stress and have hurt other ecosystems and industries. For cities of the future to adjust to the steady inflow of population called for in the near future, changes must be implemented starting today.
大家好, we are in the streets of Shanghai, China. With a current population of over 26 million people, Shanghai is currently the largest city in China and is highly influential in its economics, finances, and international trade. As I walk along these businessmen in the streets, we can see that the people here live their everyday lives in a very industrialized way, and there is always a rush to get to work. Living in the present is often what people strive for and to have time for and wish to do, but stopping to think about the past and what things from the past affect the future is also very important, especially for the protection of lives of future generations.
The large and dense population of Shanghai results in the production of large amounts of anthropogenic heat release. Anthropogenic heat release is carbon dioxide emissions that are released into the atmosphere as a result of human activities, such as the burning of fossil fuels for heating, cooling, industrial processes, transportation of people and goods, you name it. With all of Shanghai's large and dense buildings, it is obviously hard to house the mass number of people who reside here. Most people live in small rooms, where many people are crowded into one building.
Now let's go talk to some of the residents of Shanghai and see their thoughts on this beautiful city that's being affected by the environment.
Hi, can you please tell everything about Shanghai, how you like it here?
Well, I do really like Shanghai as a city. It's a very colorful city with great attractions, great food. However, I feel like there's just too many people.
Okay, what about you?
Yeah, I also hate the pollution here. The air quality is really bad.
Now that we have gotten an idea of what Shanghai residents say about their own city, let's go and talk to an environmental specialist. Shanghai is a city with a high demand in economic development and engines development. It is also the center of innovation for global economy, but there's also the problem of increased heat and pollution. Often, people do not give time to stop and think about the environment, but a healthy environment is the key to rising future healthy generations.
Actually, the population of China as a whole accounts for 1/5 of the entire world's population. In Shanghai, China, the Shanghaiese population gut microbiota is unique due to the environment, race, living habits, and a majority of other factors.
There have been various studies showing differences between the rural versus urban Chinese population's gut microbiota, such as in the cities of traditional Xi'an, which is more rural than urban elite cities of Shanghai.
I've heard that Shanghai has the highest cancer rates in China. Is this true?
Yes, the cancer rate is very high in Shanghai, and the rate is linked to a large number of elderly people, the population's many unhealthy habits such as smoking, unhealthy diets, and lack of exercise. For men, lung cancer is the most prevalent, and for women, it is breast cancer, thus leading to 51,000 new cancer patients annually. Satellite images show Shanghai's growing environmental footprint. Shanghai has expanded in all directions, filling in what had mainly been farmland with new housing, factories, shopping, parking lots, and roads. Pudong, the once rural district west of Hangpu River, now has a population of more than 5 million people and is home to some of Shanghai's tallest and most iconic buildings. The rapid pace of development has changed Shanghai's natural ecosystems. Wetlands in the region declined at the rate of 1.2% per year between 2000 and 2010. Sea level rise, erosion, degrading, and construction of water storage infrastructure all contributed to wetland loss.
Yes, I've heard of these reports as well. I noticed you mentioned about increased vehicle ownership, and so it's true that increased vehicle use will result in more air pollution. However, these impacts can be mitigated by restraining vehicle ownership and use. While enhanced emissions control technology can greatly reduce air pollution that conventional internal combustion engine vehicles produce. They use spark and ignition engines. This use is able to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by about 20%.
That's it.
Also, regarding the expansion of Shanghai into neighboring areas, we see a great decline of Greenland, with agriculture and rural areas being filled by large buildings and people.
Shanghai is currently planning a massive 100-hectare vertical farm, which will hopefully be able to feed 24 million people. This project is a mega farming laboratory that will meet the food needs of almost 24 million people, while serving as a center for innovation, interaction, and education within the world of urban agriculture.
Thank you for your input.
Moving on to Salton City, California. We can see that the city's size is quite small compared to Shanghai. However, this doesn't mean that Salton City doesn't have quite a few problems of its own.
Since Salton City is by the Salton Sea, the urban structure has affected the body of water and thus the ecosystem within that body of water negatively. According to National Geographic, the salinity and the pollution of the seas rose between the 80s and the 90s. The urban structure also pollutes the dust and the sand in the Salton City, causing the dust to become toxic dust and then pollute the air.
So after speaking about the building of the city's infrastructure, let's talk about the state of the city's health. Here's our environmentalist with the latest facts.
The city is pretty healthy when being compared to other cities like Shanghai and Dhaka. However, that doesn't mean that it does not have some of its own health problems. Due to climate change, the Salton Sea has rapidly been shrinking, and its lakebed is slowly being exposed. Because of the shrinking, there has been an increase in dust in the area, and the dust that is arising has arsenic and selenium in it, so it is toxic. This increase has led to the asthma rates, allergies, and increasing, and it can irritate the cardiovascular problems in adults.
The environment in Salton City plays a big role in the health of its citizens. Salton City is specifically unique because it is by a lake, which is a big factor in what goes on there. Can you tell us more about the city's food sources?
Also negatively affects food sustainability in Salton City. The toxic elements in the dust mix with the soil and affect the growth of crops.
We are continuously working to address this problem. Salton City has made plans to address this problem. Just recently in 2017, a 10-year plan that addresses potential health and environmental problems was released.
Salton City has pretty much the same demands as any other city in the U.S. Electricity, sewage, and so forth. Since it sits on a thermal vent in the country, it sits on imperial country. It is trying to develop some of its land into a geothermal plant. This means the environment will be cleaner since the plant would use geothermal energy, which is renewable. Let's check out what Salton City is doing to minimize and moderate its perceived effect.
Yes, from our efforts so far, we have been trying to design the Salton Sea area as a renewable energy zone in connection with the Imperial County. We are pursuing public-private partnerships with energy developers for new geothermal energy facilities to potentially be followed by wind, algae, and solar energy projects in later stages. I've also heard plenty about the current state of planning and securing funding for a new transmission line with an export capacity of up to 1,700 megawatts to deliver renewable energy. Namaskar. Welcome to Dhaka. Dhaka is the capital of Bangladesh, the poorest country in the world. Dhaka Dhaka is also one of the most densely populated cities in the whole world. It has about 122,000 people per square mile and a population of 9 million people. For comparison, we can think of New York City, the most densely populated city in America. Its population of around 8.6 million people.
However, it has way more space than Dhaka does, and it has a population density of 27,000 people per square mile. This is about 100,000 people per square mile less than Dhaka.
As you can see, Dhaka is facing a huge overpopulation problem. This problem is caused by the large and growing industry in Dhaka. People move here because of it. This, along with the emissions from the industrialization, contribute to the pollution in the city. This industrialization can contribute to air pollution.
Every day between January 7th to January 10th of 2018, the air pollution was recorded. On January 7th, air quality in the capital was at 330 points according to the AQI. Next day, it was at 341 points, 355 points on January 9th, and 372 points on January 10th. According to AQI, a range of 301 to 500 points is extremely unhealthy air pollution. Another way pollution is getting into the waterways, which is creating a health risk. The millions of poor people that live there have no access to cleaner water and therefore fall sick to waterborne diseases.
In this picture, you see deaths attributed to environmental risks in South Asia. As seen in Bangladesh has the highest percentage of deaths due to environmental risks in South Asia. The urbanization and overpopulation of Dhaka is increasing obesity in the city. There are too many people in the city to feed a good, healthy diet. So what they do is they feed on fatty foods that lack the proper nutrients that they need. This obesity problem can lead to even more complications.
As said previously, the food in Dhaka is lacking a couple essential nutrients, specifically zinc and iron. About half of the population suffers from zinc and iron deficiencies. Along with lack of nutritious food, there is a growing lack of sustainable food sources. In Bangladesh as a whole, crop production is declining because of climate change and rising sea levels. In the result of rising sea levels, this forces 200,000 people to evacuate from Dhaka. It is actually projected to decline by 30% by the end of the century.
Hope is not lost yet through Dhaka. Dhaka has been taking initiatives to promote a healthy environment. For example, the Environmental Conservation Act, Environmental Court Act, etc. have been established to address this problem. To solve the nutrition problem, Dhaka has started modifying foods to give more necessary ingredients. For example, rice has been fortified with zinc. They have also created the public food distribution system to help food sustainability.
Encouraging the adoption of cleaner brick manufacturing technologies would be better for the environment, as it would require less energy. Bangladesh has also introduced VSBK, which would emit around 60% to 70% less particulate matter than the traditional fixed kilns. As said before, water pollution affecting health throughout Dhaka. Some solutions for this is the Bangladesh Rural Water Supply and Sanitation Projects, which aims to increase a safe water supply and hygienic sanitation in the rural areas. Another organization that is trying to help all of Bangladesh, including Dhaka, is the Chittagong Water Supply Improvement and Sanitation Project. This is supporting to increase the sustainable access to safe water, and it improves the sanitation, and it also supports the establishment of a long-term water supply, sanitation, drainage, infrastructure, and operational management program in Bangladesh. With the solutions that are being implemented, there's a lot of damage to fix environmentally in Dhaka. As we talk about Dhaka, now we're going to go and talk to some of the scientists that are looking to make the future better.
Now that we have taken a look at these three wonderful but different cities, all with their own problems and solutions, we now ask the question, what do all of these cities have in common?
Well, there are some overarching problems that we discussed. We discussed overpopulation, which contributes to pollution. In urban environments, pollution not only affects the environment, but also affects the health of the people that live in the city.
Bad effects on the health cause the spread of disease and increase in DNA damage in the organisms in the urban environment.
Also, cities are struggling to sustainably energize and feed themselves.
What can we do to solve these problems? Scientists Maham, Zoe, and Paravi have teamed up to create a virtual sustainable city.
This is a city that they have imagined to combine all the major positive traits of the cities that we have previously observed.
Energy is an important part of the city. As seen in the previous cities, the city's source of energy can be damaging to the environment and the city and to the people. To address this in our city, we have opted to totally eliminate fossil fuels in the city. That means that all of our city's energy is renewable.
Yes, all of our energy comes from the sun and from the wind. Solar panels and wind turbines will be the main source of energy for the city. We choose not to include hydropower as one of our sources of energy because dams would disrupt the ecosystems of the marine life in the city.
Another aspect we are looking for is decreasing the fossil fuel emissions by banning cars in our cities. Citizens must take public transportation, such as buses or trains, or should resort to using bikes or walking if they can, following many models such as Japan. Some cars are allowed, though. Electric cars will be exempt from this ban.
The infrastructure of the city lays out building rules for citizens to follow. In Shanghai and Dhaka, we see what happens when a city does not have a proper infrastructure. There's a lot of overcrowding, which leads to increase in population, pollution, and disease. In Shanghai, we saw that because of the immense amount of people and the badly planned infrastructure, people are forced to live crowded buildings that have small rooms. In Dhaka, we saw the lack of resources that led to citizens there having nutrient deficiencies. In Sultan City, we saw that the city itself affected and was heavily affected by the Sultan Lake around it.
All in all, the quality of life is decreased in those situations. In order to prevent overcrowding in our city, we have decided to limit our population of our city. There are designated portions of the city that are set aside to be used as residential areas.
Once those residential plots and areas are filled up, there is no longer any options to build residential areas. The rest of the land will be used as for commercial buildings.
A smaller portion will also be used for the industry to support the city's economy. Even though we want our city to have a good economy, we do not want the city to have a rapidly growing one.
Yes, this would promote migration into the city and would therefore promote overpopulation. More overpopulation and more industry would result in air pollution. This is shown in Sultan City, Dhaka, and Shanghai. In our city, we will encourage the use of electric vehicles, bicycles, and walking. This would help people live healthily.
How will this help the food production? It isn't that big of an aspect of people having a healthy lifestyle.
As we saw in Shanghai, many overcrowded cities simply don't seem to have space for gardens and farming within the urban city itself.
And while this is the case, we need to be able to be self-sustainable in our city. And to do this, we must have a way to grow agriculture in the midst of the population living there.
I see.
You're right. Amongst the soaring skyscrapers of Shanghai, we saw that plans and projects have emerged to work on the growth of city agriculture. Sasuke Firm's vertical gardens create a major farming laboratory with the purpose of feeding millions of people.
In our city, we are planning to promote people to have their own rooftop gardens, as well as rooftop gardens and other modern infrastructures. We'll have specific buildings with the purpose of vertical agriculture, growth, and as we want to promote self-sustainability within our city. These buildings will have multiple floors for growing food.
I heard that there will be a restriction on meat as well.
Yes, we want to rely mainly on plant-based foods, which we will cultivate within our city through the self-sustainable message as previously mentioned.
This is because we know that raising livestock in a sustainable and healthy way for the animals themselves requires a lot of space per animal, which we might not be able to afford in our city. We need to be able to have more space for people and plants rather than for livestock. And the animals that we do have in the city will be raised in specific places with healthy living systems.
We will raise and protect as many bees as well as to pollinate our plants and food. We will strive to protect other wildlife as well in order to promote a balanced ecosystem. This would give healthy options to the people in the city, but more importantly, will help the environment for more area with normal trees.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I gotta say, this sounds like a really great plan, and I hope people agree with you guys. You guys took into account of pollution, people's well-being, and the environmental issues. Thank you for sharing and raising awareness.
Again, I would like to emphasize how much damage we have done to our Earth. If you don't take action and sit there, we don't take action and we just sit here, we'll get drowned, fried, or even frozen. Science's mom, Zoe and Ravi, has made a powerful video for you guys to understand what is happening in this Earth.
Degrees today, it's freezing here. Speaking of global warming, we need some global warming. It's free with the sun.
We're not going to recognize it.
The most criticized scene in the movie An Inconvenient Truth was showing that the combination of sea level rise and storm surge would flood the 9/11 memorial site. And people said, what a terrible exaggeration.
Hurricane Sandy slammed into New York City last night, flooding the World Trade Center site.
Storms get stronger and more destructive. Watch the water splash off the city. This is global warming.
We have 11 years. As said before, we'll create a city that will have all the positive characteristics. This would include less factories, better farming land, better livestock production, and we'll have a better economy as a whole. We want everyone to be safe and happy wherever they live. We don't want anyone to get hurt because of the climate. We don't want people's homes to be destroyed or have the lack of nutrients. So let's take actions for ourselves and let's save our Earth. Thank you.